1. Colonial period, 1607–1776. The first permanent English colony in North America was established in Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607. Over the next century, more English colonies were founded along the eastern seaboard, including in New England and the mid-Atlantic. Along with English settlers, the Spanish, French, and Dutch also established colonies in different regions. During this period, interactions between Native Americans and European settlers were often tense, as the settlers expanded their territories. The economy in the colonies was based on agriculture, trading, and increasingly, slavery. 2. The American Revolution, 1775 to 1783. By the mid-18th century, tensions between the 13 American colonies and Great Britain were growing, especially over issues like taxation, without representation in the British Parliament. These tensions escalated into open rebellion, beginning with the battles of Lexington and Concord in 1775. In 1776, the colonies declared their independence from Britain with the Declaration of Independence, primarily authored by Thomas Jefferson. The subsequent American Revolutionary War lasted until 1783, when Britain formally recognized the United States' independence through the Treaty of Paris. 3. The Federal Era, 1787 to 1800. After the Revolution, the new United States needed a framework of government. The U.S. Constitution was drafted in 1787 and ratified in 1788, establishing a federal system with three branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. In 1791, the Bill of Rights was added to protect individual freedoms like free speech, religion, and the right to a fair trial. The country was led by its first president, George Washington, whose leadership set the tone for the nation's early governance. 4. Westward expansion, 1800 to 1860. In the 19th century, the United States rapidly expanded westward. The Louisiana Purchase, 1803, from France, doubled the size of the country. American settlers pushed into Native American lands, often violently displacing them. The Indian Removal Act, 1830, and the resulting Trail of Tears are among the darker chapters in this period. The expansion also led to the annexation of territories like Texas in 1845 and the outcome of the Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848, which resulted in the acquisition of lands that would become California, Arizona, New Mexico, and other southwestern states. 5. The Civil War, 1861 to 1865. By the mid-19th century, the nation was deeply divided over issues such as slavery, economic systems, and states' rights. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860, who opposed the expansion of slavery, triggered the secession of Southern states and the formation of the Confederate States of America. This led to the Civil War in 1861. The war ended in 1865 with the defeat of the Confederacy, and slavery was abolished with the 13th Amendment. The war left the country deeply scarred, and the post-war period of Reconstruction sought to rebuild the South and integrate formerly enslaved people into society, though many challenges remained. 6. Industrialization and the Gilded Age, late 19th century. After the Civil War, the United States transformed into an industrial powerhouse. Innovations such as the railroad, telegraph, and steel spurred rapid economic growth. However, the period also saw massive inequality, with wealthy industrialists, such as John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, amassing fortunes while laborers faced harsh working conditions. This era, known as the Gilded Age, was marked by political corruption, monopolies, and social unrest, which later led to labor movements and the rise of progressive reforms. The 20th century, World Wars, the Great Depression, and the Cold War, World War I, 1914 to 1918. The U.S. joined the war in 1917, contributing to the defeat of Germany and the Central Powers. Afterward, the U.S. became a major world power. The Great Depression, 1929. The U.S. faced its worst economic crisis, which led to widespread unemployment and poverty. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs were implemented to provide relief and recovery, though the country did not fully recover until the onset of World War II. World War II, 1939 to 1945. The U.S. entered the war after the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. U.S. forces played a key role in defeating the Axis powers, and the war ended with the U.S. emerging as a global superpower. The war also saw the U.S. becoming the first country to use atomic weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Cold War, 1947 to 1991. After World War II, tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union led to the Cold War, a period of geopolitical rivalry, nuclear arms competition, and ideological conflict. Major events during this period included the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the space race. 8. Civil Rights Movement, 1950s to 1960s. The 1950s and 1960s saw major struggles for equality in the U.S., particularly for African Americans who faced widespread segregation and discrimination. The civil rights movement sought to end racial segregation and promote equal rights through peaceful protests and legal challenges. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and others became iconic figures in this movement, culminating in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. 9. Recent history, 1990s to present. End of the Cold War. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, marking the official end of the Cold War. The U.S. emerged as the sole global superpower, enjoying an era of prosperity and technological advancement. The September 11th attacks, 2001. In 2001, the U.S. faced the tragic terrorist attacks carried out by al-Qaeda, which led to the War on Terror and invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. Economic challenges. The early 21st century saw the 2008 financial crisis, which led to a global recession and significant shifts in U.S. economic policies. Political divisions. The last 2 decades have seen deepening political polarization, with significant debates over issues like healthcare, immigration, climate change, and race relations. Today, the United States remains a global leader in politics, economics, and technology, though it faces numerous challenges both at home and abroad.